Welcome, everyone, to the Meaningful Hearts Podcast, where we discuss the everyday questions that make us or break us if we let them. With your hosts, Drew and Daniela. Take our hands and let's walk this journey together.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Meaningful Hearts Podcast. Today, we are back as a duo. I am glad to have you here, babe.
It's been a pleasure to be back together.
And today we're going to be talking about something that Drew came across, and when he shared it with me, I thought it was pretty interesting. And it's something called forest breathing. Babe, I don't know if you want to share the pronunciation.
I'm not butchering this. I'm not Japanese, nor do I speak it. Shinrin Yoku, which is the Japanese terminology for forest breathing. And it originated and was developed back in the 1980s as a form of natural therapy to combat stress and improve health. And for us on this channel, any way that we could reduce, our stress and improve our health, we're all for it. We're open to other ways or new ways of doing things. And it has since gained popularity in years to come. So we're talking 40 plus years later. And it's actually a worldwide therapeutic kind of practice, which is interesting, to say the least. We've never heard of it. And we've been to a lot of seminars, or we've read a bunch of books and Tony Robbins and this person and that person. We've watched a lot of stuff. We just never came across this. So, and anything that is kind of free that we can do on a regular basis, or it's tangible to us, it's definitely something we want to add into our routines or even give it a shot. We've been doing it already.
Yeah.
Do you agree? Yeah. What do you think about this? What is your thought on coming across this? What are your thoughts?
Well, truthfully, it reminds me of things that we've come across that I'm like, oh, I already do that. I know a big part of that is when we've done seminars and they talk about the importance of communication and how to effectively communicate and how to be vulnerable. I know you and I have had conversations of like, wow, that's so interesting. We already do these things.
Yeah, so we're basically perfect. I don't know if you guys know this, but we're already the masterpiece, just needs to be chiseled out to see it. Yeah, that's really it.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting. I think it's definitely a unique way of describing becoming more in tune with nature.
Yeah. I mean, it's a simple practice, right? So it involves a leisurely walk in a forest or nature setting, which I would say for a majority of us, it's pretty attainable, right? And while you're on that walk, sight, sound, smell, taste, you can add that in there. I don't know if you could taste the forest, but maybe if it's about to rain, I'm adding taste in because I think that's something you can kind of, somebody's barbecuing nearby, you could taste that.
Yeah.
And the textures.
Yeah. It's a more sensory experience versus a exercise experience, which is pretty interesting because a lot of the stuff that we do in nature, especially I know for myself, I love hiking. So this is a little bit of a different approach. It's more, and I'm not saying that you don't have sensory experiences when you're hiking, but I think the purpose of this, at least my understanding of it, is really practicing mindfulness and being fully present with nature. And the best way to do that is to incorporate the senses. What do you hear? Can you hear the sound of the trees? The leaves. Rustling? I don't know if rustling is a word.
Rustling is a word, but I don't know if rustling would be the proper term for this. But definitely just getting you might not be able to capture everything. If you focus on trying to capture everything in every shape and form, I think you'll lose sight of it. It's more or less come into it with your senses and whatever is the most pronounced.
Yeah. Rustling is fitting, by the way. I looked it up.
Okay.
Rustling is like the crack, like the leaves when they crackle. Yeah.
You might get more sound in the fall because of the leaves, right?
Yeah.
You might get, I guess, better smells in the summer because of the warmth. And I think textures is something depending on where you are. Or maybe walk up to a tree and touch the tree, kind of close your eyes and take in, breathe. It's definitely something that you can do in many different facets, but it's more or less just going and having the experience.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And there's a laundry list of benefits that come with doing this, which everyone wants to know, why would I do this? Besides, I mean, it is awesome to do if you like nature. I'm sure you've done this already, but now you could do it and say, well, by the way, I'm doing it for these reasons. Some of which are reducing stress, right? Studies have shown. Now, don't quote me on this because, people could say studies have shown. I've read articles and then, but I guess the studies that they've done have shown that it can lower your stress levels. The stress hormone called cortisol can improve your mood, which, I mean, I know that for a fact. When we go to nature, on a nature hike, even just being in the wilderness improves your mood. Without even reading this, but a lot of us have negative emotions, anxiety, suffer from depression. Seek nature. Also, to add something in there, which we've talked about in previous episodes, is grounding yourself, where you take your socks off and you barefoot touch the ground, like touch dirt. That's actually something you could add to it, depending on where you are, if you're able to do that. And complementary to that, you get to boost your immune system. Yeah, because trees release a specific chemical called, I'm going to try to say this word, phytonicides.
I think it's phytoncides.
Phytoncides.
That's how I would pronounce it. I don't know.
Okay. Phytoncides. Trees release natural oils that have antimicrobial properties and can enhance immune function. So there's like all this cool stuff. Nature's just like an ailment healer. It's there, and it's our bodies just know to be there. It's not like you have to question whether being in nature is right or wrong or it feels. It is natural. It's something that you're just like, wow, I can't believe I don't do this more often. I think, in my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I go on walks pretty often. By my office, there's actually a specific area that is pretty surrounded by like a lot of green.
Yeah.
So yeah.
She's drawn to it.
Yeah.
She's a natural human being.
I'm a natural forest breather.
Yes. It'll enhance your focus also and promotes overall well-being. I think these are all wins. It's, I think, cheap or no dollars, and just involves getting to whatever nature's around you and taking it all in. Unfortunately, not all of us have the same level of nature, but any nature will do, as long as you can try to take it all in and appreciate it.
Yeah, even if it's just I think even if it's, at least personally for me, I think it's even if it's just a small park somewhere near you. Yeah. I think that would be really helpful, because the idea is to, again, incorporate more of the senses as opposed to just focusing on the walk itself or like the exercise that comes from the walk.
Yeah. And whatever time you have to do this, it doesn't necessarily have to be a speed run. You don't have to say, oh, when I got to get as much time. If it's 5 minutes, make it the best 5 minutes. Slow down, walk slowly. Don't have a specific destination. Whatever time you have allotted, make sure that you can waste it. Like, you can waste it in the best possible way and get lost for that time and really just devour and just take it all in.
Yeah.
And be very intentional about that. Like I said, we talked about before, engaging your senses. heighten your senses. Well, not heighten them, but engage your senses. The senses that you have, whatever is most pronounced to you at the moment. If it's sound, then indulge in that. If it's smell, I mean, you'll know when you go to the forest. There'll be characteristics that you'll notice right away. Your senses, especially when it's completely quiet and all you hear is nature. It's very important. Stay present, right? Stay present. Be in this moment. Keep your phone away from you. Like, this is not a Instagram moment. Hey, look at me. I'm doing something mystical in the forest. It's more like set your phone aside or mute everything and really disconnect. And like I said before, spend your time. Spend your time wisely, whatever time you have. If you don't have time, then I recommend only doing this when you do have time to set aside for this.
Or actually, I would say that it's less about having the time and more about making the time, truthfully.
Yeah. Yes, making the time. If time is there, if there is leisure time for you, make sure you choose it wisely, because we can choose to do a lot of things with our quote unquote free time that we have, and sometimes people spend it doing Netflix stuff. You know, binge watching Baby Reindeer is definitely not going to heighten your senses.
I mean, it'll definitely heighten your senses, but your anxiety senses.
Yes, correct. You know what? Yes, you're right. You're right.
And it's not to say that you shouldn't watch Netflix. I think Netflix is a good pastime, but it's important to have a good balance of things. So incorporating some type of leisurely walk. I mean, ideally, it'd be great if you do anything more than 20 minutes, but start off slowly would be my recommendation. If you could do a 5-10 minute walk where you're fully present, even if it's just 5 minutes at that. I think that's really what it comes down to. You can still keep your Netflix habit, but maybe you can use Netflix as a reward for going on the walk.
Yeah.
Or whatever the case may be.
Even though health is the reward, but hey, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, dress comfortably. You're not going to wear a business suit. You're not going to do this right before you have to go into the office. Make sure you're completely comfortable and just ready to connect. And if most of your leisure time is with your partner or whoever this person is, a friend, whatever, you can do this with somebody else. You don't have to do this alone. But just be mindful the person that you bring with you is going to indulge in this and have an open mind to doing this as well. Because if your energy is pulled towards or you're being distracted by somebody or trying to appease somebody's trying to participate in this, but they're not in it, that's not going to help you, because it's not going to help you focus.
Or if they're just talking to you the whole time.
Yeah, tell them to shut the fuck up. Definitely. I highly recommend that. Daniela, would you like to pose a question for our audience that maybe they can answer after going on a forest breathing experience? Because if we're gonna go through the experience, sometimes maybe we have a question before, something that's looming or something that's on our mind, and then maybe when our mind is clear, we can go back to that question and answer it.
I mean, if they have a pending question prior to it, or they're thinking about something, sure. I'm trying to think of a way to word a question afterward. I guess I would really just encourage asking yourself, what did you actually physically feel? You know, I've started to do a lot of sensory body work with clients, and it's interesting to see how disconnected so many of us are from our own physical sensations. So I think that's what I would encourage, is to reflect on, what did your body physically feel? Did you notice whether you were tense prior to it? Did you notice yourself relax? And at what point did you feel yourself relax? What does the breathing feel like? I think I would encourage those type of questions, which I know you said one question, but as I was thinking about it, it formed into more.
I mean, if you can grab one of those away after you hear this episode and take that with you, then by all means, I think you should.
Yeah, this, when we talk about forest breathing, I was actually remembering, I forget who wrote the book, but it was a monk. And within the book, he talked about the importance of being present. And he said something, and I think I might have said this on a previous episode, but when he looks at a tree, he doesn't just see a tree. He sees all the things that exist near, around, within that tree that help create that tree, that help stabilize that tree. And I think that's what I'm associating forest breathing with, is the idea of incorporating more of your senses, because so many of us walk around without being aware of what our senses do for us.
Yeah, I think that sometimes we think it's like it's an interruption. It's like it interferes with our abilities to focus and do things. Sometimes our body's trying to tell us something. Our senses are there for a reason, to keep us healthy, keep us safe, keep us in the best possible shape we can be in. Just keep in mind, throughout history, human beings didn't have the technology and distractions we have today. So just understand that we're still primitive in a lot of ways in our minds. Our bodies don't understand that there's a iPhone 15 in our hands, or we have a deadline due. That's not how our body works. So appreciate this complex machine that we have and try to really hone in on and pay attention to these things.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Well, I appreciate you all for listening. I hope that you get something out of this, that you go on your own journey and journal it. We love you all. Thank you for listening.